In the year 1930, a man named Joe walked into a small village in the cold north. He expected to hear dogs barking. He expected to see smoke from fires, but there was only silence. He walked up to a tent. Joe looked inside the tent. He saw a coat that was only half finished. The needle was still in the cloth. It looked like the woman sewing it had just walked away. In another tent, he found a pot of soup over a cold fire. It was full to the brim. The village was full of things, but there was not a single person present. He found 7 sled dogs nearby. They were still tied up, but they had starved to death. Even the graves in the ground were empty. Someone, or something, had dug them up. Tonight, we look at 3 places where people vanished overnight. We will look at the clues they left behind. I am Vestige. Don't look away. You might be next. Joe did not stay in the village for too long. He was afraid and scared for his life. He walked as fast as he could through the deep snow to reach a telegraph office. He sent a message to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. He told them, "The people are gone. Something is wrong." When the police arrived, they did not find a crime scene. They found a ghost town. The officers walked into the tents, just like Joe had done. They found the same things Joe had found. There were rifles leaning against the walls. In the Arctic, a rifle is life. You do not leave home without it. You only leave it behind by mistake unless you are forced to. Then, they found the kayaks. These were the boats the villagers used for hunting. They were still on the shore. If the people had moved, they did not go by land, because there were no tracks. And they did not go by water, because the boats were still there. But the most chilling part was the sky. The police talked to other men who lived in the woods. These men were miles away from the village on that same night. They told the police they had seen something strange. They said they saw a bright, blue light in the clouds. It was shaped like a huge bullet. It pulsed with light and moved toward Lake Anjikuni. The police looked at the graves again. They confirmed what Joe had seen. The stones around the graves were not moved, but the bodies inside were gone. It was like they had been pulled straight up through the dirt. For weeks, the police searched. They used dogs. They used planes, yet they found nothing. The police were very confused. They looked at the ground very closely. They were looking for blood. They were looking for signs of a fight. They found nothing. One officer found a fire that was still burning, but the wood was almost gone. This meant that the people had been there just a few hours before Joe arrived. If they were attacked, where were the footprints of the attackers? If they ran away, why didn't they take their coats? The police then checked the food. They found that the village had plenty of dried meat and fish. They were not starving. In fact, they were rich for a small village. Then came the most famous part of the mystery. The police checked the official records of the stars that night. They found that the blue light Joe saw was not an airplane. There were no planes in that part of the world in 1930. The light did not move like a bird or a cloud. It moved like it was searching for something. No one ever saw those people again. Some say it was a sickness. Some say it was the lights in the sky. But the relics tell a different story. They tell us that whatever happened, it happened fast. 1 second they were sewing coats and cooking soup. The next second, they were gone. When the news hit the papers, people were terrified. Some experts said it was a mass kidnapping from space. Others said the ground opened up and swallowed them. But the police file stays open. To this day, the Canadian government has no answer. The village of Lake Anjikuni is still a map with no people. A place where time stopped and the cold took over. This is the village of Kuldhara. For 500 years, it was a happy place. It was full of life and trade. Then, in a single night in 1825, every single light went out. By morning, the streets were empty. This time, it wasn't just 25 people. It was an entire kingdom. Over 1,500 people walked into the desert and simply vanished. But they did not leave like the people in the north. In the north, they left their soup and their coats. In Kuldhara, the people left because they were angry. A powerful minister in Jaisalmer called Salim Singh demanded to marry the daughter of the village chief and threatened to increase their taxes and hurt their families if they refused. The villagers had a choice. They could give up the girl, or they could leave. To protect their honor, the people of Kuldhara and 83 surrounding villages vanished in a single night in 1825. That night, every man, woman, and child met in the center of town. They packed nothing. They took no food. Before the last person stepped outside the city walls, they laid a curse.
They said that no one would ever live in Kuldhara again. Anyone who tried to stay would find only death.
Today, the village is still there. The stone houses are still standing, but they have no roofs. They look like open ribs under the sun. People who visit there today reported that they found strange things. They found small clay toys in the corners of houses. They found bangles from women's wrists buried in the dust. The most chilling part is what happens there at night. Some scientists went there to stay the night. They used machines to listen to the air. They did not hear ghosts. Instead, they heard the sound of 1,500 people whispering at once. When they woke up, they found tiny handprints on the glass of their cars. These handprints belong to children who have been gone for 200 years. Just like in the north, no one knows where 1,500 people went. They did not show up in the next town. They did not show up in the city. They walked into the sand and became part of the wind. It is now a popular, partly ruined tourist site maintained by the Archaeological Survey of India. Our last stop takes us back to India, to a thin strip of land surrounded by the sea. This is Dhanushkodi. In 1964, it was a busy town with a train station, a post office, and hundreds of homes. In December 1964, a massive cyclone and 25-foot tidal waves destroyed the thriving town of Dhanushkodi, killing over 1,800 people and turning it into a ghost town. The wind was so loud it sounded like a scream. In the middle of the storm, a train called number 653 was moving toward the town. It was carrying 115 people who were going home to see their families. The train driver looked ahead. He saw the tracks disappear into the water. He stopped the train and waited, but then a giant wave as high as 20 feet rose up from the dark and swallowed the train whole. The next morning, the town of Dhanushkodi was gone. The houses were smashed. The tracks were bent like paper. Reports say that over 1,800 people died in the cyclonic storm. All houses and other structures in Dhanushkodi town were destroyed. The high tidal waves moved deep onto the island and ruined the entire town. Naval vessels sent to rescue people reported seeing several bloated bodies around the eastern end of Dhanushkodi. Eyewitness accounts recollected how the surging waters stopped short of the main temple at Rameshwaram, where many people had taken refuge from the fury of the storm. The most chilling part was what the divers found later. They found the relics of the train under the sand. They found suitcases that were still locked. They found a signal light that was still turned to green, telling the train it was safe to move. But they never found the people. Today, Dhanushkodi is a ghost town. The government says it is a not fit for human living zone. People who visit the ruins say they find old coins from 1964 washed up on the sand. They see the ruins of a church with no roof, standing like a skeleton against the blue water. Just like the village in the north and the city in the desert, Dhanushkodi is a place where life was erased in a heartbeat. The relics stay behind to remind us that the earth is powerful, and sometimes it doesn't give back what it takes. 3 different places, 3 different worlds. In the north, they left their soup. In the desert, they left a curse. In the sea, they left a green light. These are the relics of people who are no longer here. They remind us that the world we live in is a thin mask. One second, you are sewing a coat or sitting on a train. The next second, you are part of a mystery that people will study for 100 years. If you found this deep dive into history's most bizarre horrors unsettling, hit that like button, and if you want to see more cases like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our next dive into the archives of the unexplained.